I've really enjoyed being here, walking around the campus last night, observing what people are doing with digital technology. I'll come to that in a moment. But my job is to think about the future. All of us are futurists. When you read the newspaper this morning, you were not reading it for yesterday's headlines. You were reading it to try and decide what tomorrow's headlines will be. Isn't that correct? We all think about the future. Put your hands up if you have children of your own. I often say this to my own children. I say, either you take hold of your future, young man, or the future will take hold of you. Either you have choices, you have the opportunity to shape your life. You have decisions that will be before you. You can take hold of your own destiny. But if you don't, then your destiny will take hold of you. And that is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the future as a dynamic, exciting place that we prepare people for. But the first thing I want to do is to go offline. Now, this may seem strange, but yes, sir, I'm talking to you at the back. You're not looking at me right now. I'd like to close down. I know it's fantastic to have all your technology here, but I'd like you to close down every single computer, every single digital device. I'd like you to go offline. I'd like you to turn every phone off. Yes, that's right. I actually want you to go offline. I know it's traumatic. I know that you're going to get withdrawal symptoms. I know that it's going to be impossible for you to survive mentally for the next 60 minutes. But I'd actually like you to reach down into your pockets and turn your mobile phones off. Every single one of them. Yes, even vibrate mode off. Yes, please do it now. I'm not going to carry on until you've done it. Yeah, I can see your screen still on, sir. I can see your face lit. Would you like to turn it off? I'm going to walk up in a minute. I'm going to actually see. I've been watching from behind during all the introductions. I saw people doing Facebook. I saw people doing email. I saw people doing their blogs. I saw it all, right from the back. Actually, it's one of the challenges, isn't it, for teachers to get bandwidth for pupils? Isn't it? You see, you can be present, but absent. You know what I mean? You can be talking to a class who is no longer there. Put your hands up if you know what that's like. And when they are there, they're not with you. They're with each other. This is boring. Hello? We're entering a strange new world of uncharted waters, and quite frankly, no one knows what this space is going to feel like. But at times, it can be uncomfortable as well as exciting. And that's why I would like to take a little bit of space to go offline. Just for a moment, I'd like to take you on a journey. And I need your full attention. I need you to be present here fully. I need you to engage because I'm not going to tell you anything new. What I hope is that you see something. You see something differently than what you've seen before. That your brain starts to fit together the things that you already know in a different way. And that's really is what education is all about. It's not just imparting new knowledge, it's helping people to a point of revelation. So that's what I want to do today. And I spend most of my time on the outer edge of this radar screen. I spend it with people like Google or IBM or Microsoft or Hewlett-Packard and all the people that your own pupils would love to work for in the future. People like ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, people like the Pentagon, all kinds of companies, institutions, governments, trying to help them to understand the world that your pupils are being prepared for. And straight away we have a challenge with that. By the way, I'm also a parent. We have 4 children. These are just 2 of them. This is Lizzie here. She's 23 years old. She's just finished university. And she's not quite sure what she's going to do next. Paul is doing economics at Manchester University. He's 20 and making a lot of money by investing money he earned. He asked me, he said, do you mind if I invest some of my own money? I said, what? I said, you know, this money I've saved up for my student years during my gap year, but I'd like to spend it on some shares. Is that okay? And I was actually delighted he was asking me. I felt flattered that he was asking me. I said, sure, it's your money. And then we started to think through what he was going to do. And he's now learning more economics by investing his own cash in stocks and shares. And he's more than doubled his amount in the last year. So actually I'm quite pleased about that, because doing an economics degree, what's it about? It's about that. We've got 2 other children. One is, our oldest one is in IT. He's 28 years old. He's recently married to a lawyer. And our next one down is Caroline, and she's just become a doctor. So we've been through the process of education 4 times now. And I've also taught in many high schools. I've probably spoken in 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 different high schools. most recently in Zimbabwe, which is a strange country with 1 billion% inflation. I was there just last week in a high school, talking to high school pupils who, incidentally, were struggling, and many of them walking barefoot through the bush for 3 hours each way to get their high school education. And then when they walk to school, they're finding their teachers are on strike. That's another matter, but never mind. What I'm saying is I understand a little bit about your world, and I want to give a personal view on it and where I think it's going. I happen to think that the job you're doing is one of the most important jobs in the whole of humanity. And I believe passionately in it. Now, this is my question. Where are these people going to go? Where are these web babies going? The people that come in when they're only 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 under your care. And the first thing I'll say is this, that despite the technology you have on your lap, or under your chair or wherever it is, the fact is that most of life will remain the same. Put your hands up if you believe me. Let me prove it to you. Does anybody here teach classics or Roman history? Yeah. You know that when we read the Roman poets, they speak to us as if we are today, right? Who cares about the technology? What do they speak about? They speak about love, about purpose, about destiny, about the philosophy of life, about what it was like to grow up as a 15-year-old, to look in the mirror and wonder if anybody would love you with a zit on your nose. About confidence, self-esteem, believing in yourself, and achieving greatness. All kinds of fundamental themes will be there in the next 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years. The concerns that your children have, whether you're teaching them at the age of 15 or whether they are your biological children, will remain largely the same. And they always have done, they always will. And often they're relational concerns to do with their own relationships with others, and they're concerns about their future, concerns about even things like finance. Are they going to get enough money to get something, or what they want to do? And these things will remain the same, but a lot of things will change. And actually, we need to look a very far way into the future to see just how much those things might change. So that's the paradox. Lots of things won't change, but some things will change profoundly. And let me just put my cards on the table before I do a deep dive into technology and say that I'm worried about education. I'm concerned that we're misfiring badly. I'm concerned that we're raising a generation worldwide in the wealthiest countries. I'm not talking about Zimbabwe with 1 billion% inflation. I'm talking about the children of diplomats in your school. I'm talking about the children of an executive of IBM in your school. And I'm talking about children who are growing up in broken households, many of them. I'm talking about children who are not sure how to negotiate a long-term relationship, or whether they even believe it's possible, who have lost confidence that it's even possible to bring up children with a partner and still be in relationship with that partner when the children are ending their childhood. These are people who are not sure they know what will make them happy. And they may go pursuing all kinds of crazy agendas in terms of career paths and all the rest of it. And you know what? They'll be needing psychotherapy by their 45th birthday. 1 in 6 of all women that you teach will need formal psychiatric help by the time they get to be 65 years old, my friends. 1 in 6, because they cannot cope. 1 in 9 of all the men you teach will have a mental breakdown and will be dysfunctional, completely dysfunctional, as a result of major inability to manage the emotional stretch of the world that you have prepared them for. So what I'm saying is, I'm worried about the emotional illiteracy of the generations that are being raised up, even though they are intellectually as stretched as they have ever been. And I believe that technology is making the emotional stretch even greater. And we should be considering this. And considering what it is that makes people happy. And by the way, we know it isn't income. We know that. Above a certain level, the higher the income you have, the less happy you usually are. Strange thing. Do you teach that? When you're teaching people to say, we want you to achieve your very best, we want you to really go for it, you're destined for greatness, maybe one day you'll be the chairman of a publicly listed company. Do you know what a curse that could be? Has any of you been a chairman of a publicly listed company? I'm saying this is fundamental. If we're going to get education right, we need to be educating for a world that is real, a world that's actually going to be also a lot longer than you think. Now, I'm going to show you a video. Some of you have seen this video. This video is banned in my country. It was banned. It's illegal for me to show it to you in the UK, so I thought you'd like to see it again. Now, I know that no one in Belgium would ban such a little thing as this. My question is, if you can remember, what does it advertise? And secondly, why was it banned? Your life is short. I tell you as a physician, life is getting longer. And in fact, I think we're educating for a much longer life than you might have thought. Now, as it is, people are feeling a lot younger than they did. This is Madonna, age 50, Meryl Streep, age 59. Yes. Hillary Clinton, 60, Harrison Ford, 66, and so on. And my question is this: how long are you personally going to live? And how can we stop the tick-tock of your clock? Can we stop the tick-tock of your clock? Yes, I think we can. But first of all, I'm going to show you some science. We have the capacity already to give you a permanent hair color change using a virus. All you have to do is put the virus into some liquid and wash your hair with the virus, and the virus attaches itself to the hair follicles, and your hair becomes permanently reprogrammed. Interesting. That's yesterday's technology. You see, I want you to be the futurists today. You tell me the future. I'm just going to tell you some history. Here is another piece of history. We have the capacity to grow new teeth for people who are dentally challenged. It's actually quite easy. All you do is you take a small number of cells from the mouth and you grow them, and they become new teeth. Now, the only problem is that dentists can't predict which way round the tooth will grow. That's a challenge. So it can come up sideways, frontways, or backways, and then you have to turn it around. But we are already growing teeth, which is kind of neat, isn't it? Isn't that pretty amazing? We couldn't do it 36 months ago. Here's another thing which I find utterly astonishing. We can take bone marrow cells from my bone and put it into my heart to repair the wall of my heart, and my heart starts to grow new muscle tissue. We're not quite sure how. We think that chemicals from those cells are stimulating the heart to repair itself. But still, isn't that amazing? Isn't that astonishing? And this is just the first day of the biotech revolution. In America, 10 million people are blind or going blind as a result of macular degeneration. If you're over the age of 60, you should be worried about it, because a number of you here will go blind because of this. And you may be blind for up to 10 years, and there's no cure. But scientists, I've not met, but I've talked to a scientist at Harvard Medical School, and he thinks he can cure this. He thinks it can be fixed. How? By taking some cells from your own body, injecting them into the back of your eye. Those cells then change into light-sensitive cells and lock themselves onto the wall of the retina. They repair that big hole. They connect themselves up automatically to the optic nerve, and the person can see again. He's doing it in mice and rats, and he thinks human trials will start in 5 years, and it will be a 1-hour treatment. You then come back 3 months later when they've grown the cells, another 1-hour treatment, and then you sit back and wait and you hope for the best. Isn't that amazing? The ability to regrow, repair, renew. I'm just telling you one tiny fragment of the hundreds of thousands of steps in medical research that are being used to rejuvenate people for the future. Here's another example. We have the power to repair brain tissue after stroke. Again, you might think it's crazy, but actually, you know where you get brain tissue to do your repair job? From your nose. You know why? Because inside your nose there is a hole. If you're a biologist, inside your nose is a hole, and that hole goes from your nose into your skull, into the inside of your skull, and through that hole a tiny piece of brain tissue is coming down. At the end of that tiny piece of your brain that is in your nose, you can see it. I can see it. If I was to pop a special tool up here, I can see a piece of your brain at the top of your nose. Does anybody know what it's used for? Smell. Put your hands up if your children are complaining that you get smellier and smellier cheese in your house every year. They don't like your smelly cheese, right? They say it smells of bad socks. Put your hands up if you're in one of these categories. My friends, you see, what's happening is the part of your brain which is exposed to the air is dying off. You're getting old. And that smell apparatus is just rotting away, okay? And so that's why your grandparents say that every piece of food tastes of cardboard. So you need stronger smells. Now, actually, before all those brain cells completely die away, so long as you're prepared to sacrifice your sense of smell, I can get hold of some of your brain. And I can grow it. And in those brain cells, I can take some of the brain cells out of your nose. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I can grow those brain cells, and if you've had a stroke, put those brain cells inside that area where the damage has been done, and in animal studies we start to see regrowth of the brain, and the brain starts to repair itself. Isn't this extraordinary? I think it's amazing. The spinal cord can be repaired in rats. We have rats with cut backs, and we're now beginning to move around their cages again, and so on. In fact, we know that some kinds of animals don't tick-tock their clocks at all. Humpback whales, there are two kinds of humpback whales. Some of them live for 200 years or more, and others die in just 20 years. We know they swim in the same water, they eat the same fish, but there has to be a difference. And the difference, of course, is in their genetic code. Now, there are two groups of scientists locked in a race against time. They're busy comparing the gene code between these two kinds of whales. They will have those results in the next 36 months. In 36 months, we will know which genes it is which turn off the biological clock. We cannot find any evidence of aging whatsoever in this particular kind of humpback whale. It's the same with rockfish. In fact, the project is called the Rockfish Project because in some rockfish which live to 100 years, we can find no evidence of aging. Sure, they die of lots of things. Infections, they die of accidents, they die of all kinds of things, but they don't die of degenerative illness. Whereas for almost all of you sitting here, I know that almost every single reason why any of you has been to see a physician in the last 2 years is because of one reason only, which is your cells are getting older. Okay? But these humpback whales don't. Now, I'm just telling you a little bit of history. You tell me the future. Okay, how old are you? 31. What's your name? Tim. Where were you born, Tim? In Canada. Whereabouts in Canada? In Hamilton. Did you know that the life expectancy of men in Hamilton, your age, is 81? Therefore, Tim, we say, looking at you, so long as you're in average health, we would give you 50 more years, which will take you to the stunning age, year 2060, right? But did you know that because you work for ISP, we can add 5 years on straight away? We add 5 years onto your life expectancy because you work here. Okay. Now, does anybody know the reason why? Why? It's a positive environment. He is in the upper socio-demographic group. I mean, probably university education, takes care of himself, well-informed, middle class, okay? And someone from that kind of background, straight away, has added years. Because there are plenty of people, I assure you, in the town Hamilton where you were born, that have come from very poor backgrounds, and they'll be dead in an average of 70 years, correct? And to keep that average, we have to give extra years to you to keep the national average right at 81. Now, that's an average, by the way. Oh, we said, sorry, you're 86, haven't we? Because it's ISB. So we're now saying you've got to average till the year 2065. But remember, that's an average. Tim, every one of your friends that you were at school with that dies between now and the year, let's say, 2060, of a hang gliding accident, motor accident, they drink themselves to death, they do something really stupid, or they just get cancer or something like that. Every one of your friends that dies means we've got to add more and more years onto your life expectancy to keep your class average correct, yeah? Make sense? So you can see that a significant number of Tims are going to live plenty longer than 2065. Now, I've just shown you that some of the science for the last 36 months. I want you to tell me the next 36 years of Tim's life, average life. I know nothing about Tim's medical history. But if he was average health, the next 36 years of his life. Remember that medical knowledge is doubling every 6 to 12 months, which means that almost all the medical progress that he will see in the next 36 years is going to happen in the final 3 years of that 36 years. Put your hands up if you think that in the next 36 years, we might just find a way to give him an extra average 5 years of life expectancy. Put your hands up. Wow. So we're now giving you till 2070, and we've now given you 60 more years of life. Is that right? Was 50, then it became 55 because of ISB, and now it's another 5 years for medical progress. 60 more years of life. But you've just given, but remember that's just in the next 36 years. What about the next 24 years? Put your hands up if you think in the following 24 years you might find at least another 5 years in life expectancy. Put your hands up. Whoa. Now we've now added 15 years onto your 81. We're now saying that your average life expectancy is 96. Average, Tim. That means that for every one of your classmates that actually you go to the funeral of before the birth date of 96 years of age, we're going to have to add some extra years onto your life expectancy and everyone else in your class. And that tells us straight away that a whole stack of people in your year are going to live till at least 110, doesn't it? Hello? Yeah, you're not sure. There's someone shaking their head in the back. I don't really get this kind of stuff. Listen. I lecture to government actuaries from all over the world. They are government advisors on life expectancy. I can tell you they are shaking. I can tell you that those who run the pension funds at every large corporation is shaking in their boots right now. You know why? Everyone knows that what I'm saying is the truth. They know it's the truth, but they can't say it publicly. Why can't they say it publicly? Because it messes up public and national debt figures. It messes up ISB's pension plan fund liabilities. This is why this is a kind of subject can't be talked about. But I think we should. Because you're preparing people for the future, right? And we deserve to tell them the truth. Now, what's the truth? We were talking yesterday to a whole load of parents, and one of them had a 7-year-old daughter, and we worked out that it's quite possible that his daughter will still be alive in 2110. So I hope that ISB is preparing her for life in 2110. Because if you're not, you should be closed down, because you're not a school. The school prepares people for the future. You should be preparing people for 2110, or you should be stopped. Hello? Isn't that right? See, people say, oh, I'm just preparing people for the next stage of their lives. That's nonsense. Put your hands up if you know that you are still, today, in what you're doing, you are influenced by the education you had before the age of 18. Put your hands up. My friends, you are laying the foundation stones. You are building in the genetic code which will drive these people's lives for the next 50, 60, 70, 80, or even 90 years. Let's take that calling seriously, and let's stop thinking about the next 5 years of technology.
Does it change the fundamental question of what the most important thing about education will be?
Yes.
In terms of lifelong learning.
Thank you. It changes education totally, because it means that all you could be doing is you're giving them their first education. And you're teaching them how to educate themselves and the value of learning. You're training them to receive data and be on their journey. And that's fascinating for us. Now, let's have a look forward and then look back. In 2015, imagine we're in 2015 now. We're looking back over the last 30 years. And Google is now giving us 100 gigabytes of free storage to every single human being on the planet. And to give that, 30 years ago would have cost Google 800 million euros each. That's what we're talking about in terms of the speed of technology. And by 2020, we will have in our pockets devices which are more powerful than anything you have on your lap or under your chair right now. By 2016, we will have cameras, very expensive ones, that are approaching the resolution of the human eye. By the way, books have a future. Why is that? I'm a great believer in books. You see, if you look at a book, I was in your library yesterday, if you look at a book, and I've written 12, here's a book. If I was to give one of you a copy of this book, maybe I'll do it now. I'm going to do a test, you see. Okay. Tim, here you are. Here's the copy. Right, you have 30 seconds starting from now to digest the whole of it. Just go for it. Enjoy it. Now, watch what Tim's doing. He's cheating, so he's working from the back, and then they know where he's going to go next. He's going into the middle. There we are. He's going into the middle. You see, he doesn't bother with the first words, because life's too short to start at the beginning, isn't it? Put your hands up if you read books from the middle out. It's the quickest way. Now, he can scan that. If he was to do that, he's not actually doing it. He's being very disobedient today. But if he was actually doing what he was told in class, he would actually be flicking through, wouldn't he? Be flicking through and scanning odd words, phrases, subtitles, and I know that every one of you could produce a review of my book in less than 60 seconds. I say, right, you're going to make up some review about this book. You know, who it's written by, who it's aimed for, and what it's all about, and why you should read it. Okay? And I know you do that, and you say, and an interesting quote. I'll just give you 2 interesting quotes, and you need to grab them, and you know what was in that book. You're good at scanning text. That's what you do. And the same with marking work. You've got a whack and grade dissertation. Don't tell me you pore over every word 5 times. I know how you mark, because my wife's a teacher. And basically, you take a view about the whole work. You start at the beginning, start at the end, and then you sit down and you read it through. But basically, you're trying to get to grips with the whole corpus of this thing, rather than just sort of sitting down and reading it from the first sentence in. That's what you do. And I know that if I was to give you a copy of the Financial Times, I know that you could scan the whole of that copy of the Financial Times in less than 2 or 3 minutes. And in that time, you've read the equivalent of a paperback book. There's something extraordinary about books and about printed paper, which you just can't do on your tablet. I know that you can scan. If someone was to send you a massive educational report, which you've got to comply with, or there's a copy of the new syllabus, and the new syllabus is over 5,000 pages long, and you've got to dive down into the 200-page section, which is about the future of history teaching in your school, and there are relevant sections. I know that you would much prefer to pick up a printed copy of that. It would be much quicker, wouldn't it? And you mark it up, you tear it out, and put your hands up if you know that's true. Right. So let's just remember, see, I'm a great technology fan, but we need to understand a way to use it. Paper actually has value. The reason is that you're listening to me at 120 words per minute. That's the maximum processing speed of your pathetic ears. Because you've got the tiniest thin wire here. You've got hardly any bandwidth into your brain using your ear, okay? If you're a computer person and you like bandwidth, broadband is about 2 megabits per second upwards. Your ears is 112,000 characters per second. It's nothing. It's totally pathetic, okay? So, and your processing power for speech is awful. But, if I was to send you the email, a 5,000 word email, instead of trying to read you a 5,000 email over the phone, you'll get the gist of that 5,000 word email very quickly. But if I send you a 5,000 page report, you're sunk. So what we understand is that your speed of communication in a digital world as a teacher, you've got some choices. You can contribute 120 words per minute of gold into someone's brain, assuming they're actually listening. That's the maximum. It can't be above that. Or, using a visual device, including what's on their screen, you can allow them to read on their screen perhaps 500 words per minute. Or if they're getting good at scanning using the notebook, they might be able to scan 1,500 words a minute. Or you can give them a printed resource, which they'll read at 5,000 words per minute. And if they can't read it at 5,000 words per minute, you need to teach them. Because it is one of the primary skills in the workplace for the future, is to be able to know how to scan very large amounts of text at incredible speed. Okay? I'm not sure you believe me. I promise you, I live in the workforce all the time. It's a primary skill. The idea of reading sentence by sentence is a last century idea. If you're looking at, put your hands up, you search on Google and you read half a sentence on one page, you go and you back it again. You're doing it all the time. You scan, And most people want to have a web page up on Google for less than half of a second before they decide it's the wrong page they can see going somewhere else, correct? That's why scanning is important. It's the ability to process very large amounts of data. So books do have a future, and so does printed material. By the way, again, I don't want to be heretical here in a digital school. I think this school is light years ahead of most schools in the world. I think that you are doing a digital experiment which is courageous, visionary, and will be copied in many, many places. But we also need to be careful. Here's a paradox about paper. I don't know why. But if I do a strategy day, as I have done recently with Nokia, if I was to do a similar thing with Google or IBM or some of the most visionary techno companies in the whole world, and I was to gather 25 people or 50 people in a room and start to really brainstorm some of the ideas which will drive the future, do you know what technology we will use? Flip chart and paper. What? Yeah. You will not see a single dry whiteboard. By the way, it's paper. It's not dry white. It's paper. And you'll see blue tack everywhere. Paper, 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 up around the wall till you can hardly see the windows anymore. And why? Now, I want you to think about why that would be. What we're beginning to see is that actually digital works very, very well in some contexts. It's absolutely fantastic. I use it all the time. But we need to understand its limitations in terms of getting data into brain, okay? And there's something about, well, you can have your own views about a flip chart. I don't know what it is. I think it's something about physically doodling. I noticed in your student area, there's a farewell to class 2009, correct? Now, why didn't they do it digitally? So they left a mark. I noticed there's hardly any white space around the stage. If you look, every brick of the painted surface of the stage there, an email. You say, I've already done it. Here it is. It's actually in your inbox. Oh, thank you. In that summary is 1,000 words, an executive summary, 25 bullet points, and a bit of data at the back. Now, tell me this. Do you think you'll have actually, how many of those 1,000 words do you think you'll have carefully crafted and phrased as original text? 0. Why? Life's too short. He wasn't asking you to write an original thesis. He was asking for instant knowledge, correct? He was asking for an authoritative summary. What you found, actually, was that UBS Investment Bank had produced an analyst's investment summary of magnetic levitation technology that is unbelievably, you wouldn't believe they would do it, give it away for free, 29th of September 2009. You couldn't believe your luck. You cut and pasted most of it out and put an extra little box from somewhere else and added a little graph from Wikipedia, and it was done. Now that is pure and utter plagiarism. You'd be thrown out of college for doing that, wouldn't you? Even if you cite your sources, because they say, well, it's not exactly scholarship. Whereas you're in reasoning, and you just basically cut and pasted 45 chunks from about 2 sources. But I promise you, in the world of business, he just got a promotion. Correct? Because he did what it said on the tin. He was asked for advice, he went in there 15 minutes later, and his CEO not only got an expert opinion, which was correct, but also got a summary in his email box, which was reliable on the basis. And you know why the CEO needed it? Because he was just about to consider making an acquisition. He's going straight into a meeting in 5 minutes more time, an acquisition. It turns out that he's just discovered that 15% of the research portfolio is in that particular technology. He's only just realised they're looking to sign the deal this afternoon. Wow. That's exciting stuff. The deal was worth $1 billion, and this actual technology turned out to be one of the most exciting pieces in it. It was the reason why they actually proceeded. Now, you're beginning to see, therefore, that the school, that I think, if I was going to set up an exam system, one of my primary tasks would be, and I'd love to do it in your classroom as well, it'd be fun to do, right? Maybe you do it already. You say, okay, we're going to do a real-life consultancy test, all right? And I'm going to give you 15 minutes, it's a 15-minute test, and you're going to become the world leaders in using adult stem cell technology. And you're saying this to 15-year-olds. They've never heard about stem cells. All it is the stuff technology I was just talking about. Right? So you've got 15 minutes to learn all you can and to make me a summary. I suggest you do 10 and 5. You ready? And I'll give you a prize in 15 minutes' time. Here goes. What a fantastic test. What a brilliant way to train the mind. You'll help teach them to scan, to search, and you can say you can prepare. There is some homework you can do. What homework can you do? Well, the answer is you get very good at lining up your search engines. You practiced all kinds of things. It's a skill which you could learn, and actually you could examine on it. Fantastic. And you can make sure, you can say you can use any source you like, but you can't use another human being. And we will check the data. We'll check every screenful that you've had. Nothing can be live, okay? You can't communicate with another human being. We will check. We've locked out all that. The only text you can get is old text. It's got to be at least a week old. So you stop people from cooperating. And you can do some very nice things. Now, I am certain that examination systems are going to have to shift to tools like this, because actually, I'm talking about at university level, it is the future. It is no good examining people on knowledge, on what they know. It's the knowledge they have combined with what they don't know, the skills and experience they have about where to get what they need to form a synthetic view about something else that's very important. So, social networking, just want to talk about this and then we'll finish. Social networking, you know all about it. Who here has been on YouTube in the last week or month? How many of you have put up a YouTube video about ISB or from ISB? Fantastic. I think it's a completely wide open area waiting to be used. I say this, either you take hold of your online image or the online image of ISB will take hold of you. Either you occupy the YouTube space or someone else will YouTube you. Either you blog your own space or someone else will blog you. You want to make sure that your YouTube and your blogs come higher than anybody else's, which means they've got more footprint, more traffic, becomes the main sites all the way up there. YouTube is absolutely fantastic, but the most important thing on YouTube is not the video, it's the comments. Because actually the comments are the only thing that can be searched by Google. The rest is just noise. And TripAdvisor.com. If you type in TripAdvisor, the name of a hotel, you might get the name of the hotel and you get 2 comments from TripAdvisor straight up there on Google. Put your hands up if you go straight to the official site of the hotel first. Put your hands up if you tend to go straight to TripAdvisor first for independent comment. Put your hands up if you go straight to the wonderful news, and it's the most beautiful honeymoon I ever had in my entire life. Everyone should stay there at least a month. Put your hands up if you go straight to the story about the rat, the cockroaches, and the woman who nearly died of food poisoning. Okay, now I'm confused. Straight vote. Okay, straight vote. Now you've got 3 choices. Official site, marketing department spiel, Hilton Hotel, Hilton.com, paid listing. Who goes there first? I'm doing a survey. Global survey. 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay. Unofficial comments. Nice comment. Who goes there first? 1, 2, 3, 4. Unofficial comments. Nasty comment. Who goes there first? Thank you. What you've proved to me is that advertising is dead in the online world, and no one trusts advertising anymore. No one trusts the ISB site anymore. It's true. You can write whatever you like about the school, but no one will believe a single word of it, compared to this. When I typed in ISB into Google to get your address, to give the directions to my taxi, straight away came up on Google Maps in my phone, not only your address, not only an automatic routing, but also a review. Did you know that? It came straight up with a nice 5-star review from someone who said, ISB, I simply regret I didn't spend my entire life there. I only was there for 2 years. I'm so sad to have left. Wow, very nice. That comment is worth 1,000 times more than any kind of advertising you could possibly have. I think that your own web areas, your community areas, if I was running a website, I want to make sure that every piece of creative writing that happens in the school is published, that the full whack of every single drama, production, concert is up there on YouTube. To make sure that there are community areas, yes, they're censored a little bit, but basically on the whole there are community areas which are populated, where people discuss the curriculum. I would be allowing quite a lot of your syllabus materials to be discussed and out there and open, and let that be your great advertising thing that distinguishes you and helps people understand what you're doing. I must finish. And I'm just going to finish with one final comment, which is, that the online world does have hazards, you know that, and I was talking to parents about it. In fact, one of the parents came in and said to me, "I've never met you before." Shook my hand and said, "Hello." He said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm really worried about my 7-year-old. No computer in the bedroom, that's for sure." I thought, "Oh, I haven't even said anything." But actually, it's important. And I think we need to think through some of the implications of this stuff. Yes, people can find themselves working in the same place, but if they start to work, what is going on there? I mean, in that room. Do you know? Do parents know? I think there are issues here. There are issues of safety. We need to be careful about that. How many pupils are there in the school? Remind me. 1,400. You have 1,400 risks, and every single one of them is a reputational risk, by the way. If it comes out that as a result of your lax policies, as a result of lack of discussion with your parents, as a result of lack of formal agreements between you and your parents, as a result of lack of controls and vetting of what is actually looked at on those machines. By the way, who has responsibility for that machine? It is owned by the school. I would argue that every piece of data you own, in a sense, you morally own. It's your property. What happens in that machine, you have a say over. Just like I said to the parents yesterday, which comforted some of them, I said, if a machine comes through the door of your house and is connected to your ISP, and they're using your pipeline for which you're paying to download data, and that data is offensive, immoral, it's stuff that some other child's coming in and watching on your and you wouldn't allow them to come home with some of the videos from Amsterdam sex shops or something like that. You would not allow them to come and watch those things in your living room at night or in their bedrooms with your friends. If that's the case with the DVD, which is XXXXX, then surely to goodness the same rule should apply to what's coming down on a machine. And that means for our children we had to negotiate shared passwords. We had a rule, there were no private passwords up to a certain age. The rule applied to me. That means no deleted histories on the machine. If it was a deleted history, that became a disciplinary offence as far as I was concerned. I expect to see the histories complete. I don't want anything interfered with this computer. And you can inspect my history too, okay? That's the deal. And you got my Facebook passwords as well. In fact, you can go inside my hard drive every time you like. My machine is yours. You can use mine just like yours. And I can use yours too. That's the deal. Why is that? I need protection, so do you. I want to live in a transparent way. You'll have to live this way at the office, and you're going to live this way at home. And you know what? Sometimes there'll be kickbacks. Sometimes people say you're the worst parent in the world. But when you get agreement, and I think you've got the opportunity, there was a mixture of reactions from parents. They're desperately looking for a common line. And I know this from other schools as well. They want to know that they won't get accused of being the worst parent in the world when they insist that their 12-year-old daughter has an open password on Facebook. You say, I'm not going to spy on you, but I just want you to know that I might look at it from time to time. I probably won't, but I just might. And you give me permission to do that. And if you don't give me permission to do that from time to time, I promise you I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to invade your space with it. Then I need to know why. And if you're not prepared to do that, then I don't want you on Facebook at the age of 12. Now, you might think this is over the top, but let me promise you this, absolutely guarantee you that in a group of this size, that you are probably already in problems somewhere. And let me absolutely promise you, without a shadow of a doubt, that some of the guys in your school, from the age of 13, 14 up, are probably into stuff that would utterly shock you if you were to see it. Some of them may already be in the process of forming a lifelong addiction to some of this material, which will scar them and damage their relationships for the whole of the rest of their life. Internet addiction is very real. It's not just to pornography, it's to other things as well. The girls are also vulnerable, but in other ways. Well, this is finished. I told a story about a social worker. A friend of mine, she said, as a 12-year-old girl, got a very difficult family background, and the state decided that the parents were no longer fit to look after her because the parents were drunk every night and they were taking drugs. She was put with a beautiful, wonderful family. She was doing so well. But I've discovered the most awful thing. She has a computer in her bedroom, which has got unlimited access, which is, straight away, it's a problem area for me. I think the school needs to give guidance on these things. I really, really do. She's got a computer in her bedroom, And, you know, she's just allowed to do what she likes. Of course, she can do anything she likes. Well, she started on Facebook, and then some friends turned up who were friends of friends. She got to know them. And she's talking to this guy, she thought he was about 11 and a half. And for a bit of a joke, he said one day, "Why don't you show me your bits?" And after some discussion the following week or two of laughing and joking through text and other things, he told her how to do it. He said, if you click on this and then click on that and click on the other, it will activate your camera. And so her camera was now activated. She'd never used the camera before. And she wasn't even looking at her own image. She didn't even know how to see her own image. But he said, "Oh, I can see your bits now. Ha ha, funny." He said, "Now I'll send you a CD like I promised." And 2 or 3 days later, she got a CD through the post. And this went on and on and on. In fact, she was regularly showing her bits. Well, a lot of her bits. What she didn't realise was that actually this wasn't one boy, 11 and a half years old, in the next door school. This was a Japanese man in a bar in Tokyo. And what she didn't realise is that 11,500 men were watching this live pornographic film. She didn't realise it's also being recorded. She was now part of a pornographic movie that may be distributed in this country, and maybe one day her friends will watch on YouTube. My friends, are you hearing what I'm saying? They say, "Oh, that would never happen to ISB." Why not? Why not? I promise you, you have 800 children who are girls, 700 children who are girls. I promise you, if it hasn't happened already, it will happen in the next year or 2 or 3 or 4. You will find, I promise you, every paedophile in Belgium, and there are a number, as in every country, are actively targeting every one of your pupils, or trying to. I absolutely promise you. And that's happening from the age of 5. And they're looking to seduce, to coach, mentor, befriend, and do anything with. Now, I'm just saying we need to think about these things. So the technology has fantastic opportunities, amazing adventure. It transforms our world. It drives the most exciting educational opportunities for the future. It opens extraordinary horizons to work virtually with teams all the way around the world. It offers unprecedented improvements in productivity. It enables us to have choices, to generate income while still being at home with the children, and goodness knows what. And in the middle of all of it, we just need a reality check about where we use it and how we use it, but when we use paper and when we don't, and to understand the limitations of what it can do, to understand the intense emotional connections with it, and to help our children and young adults manage themselves safely through it to become digital citizens for the future, which is something that Mike is going to talk to you about in about 15 minutes' time. Thank you very much.